and welcome to the 25th Leadership Levers lecture by TimesPro and 80 cases. And to deliver this, it's like a silver jubilee lecture that we have. And we couldn't find a better person than Arvind Laddha, who is the CEO of Mercer. I'm sure there are two things. One is some of you must be knowing this great company. It's a global MNC. And also, Mr. Arvind Laddha, those of you are following, and in case if you're not following on his LinkedIn, you should, because I think the kind of post that he makes, I think are very, very evolved and quite depthful. And for everyone who is in the leadership journey, they make a lot of difference, right? In terms of very subtle, but then very significant and very soulful writings that he makes. And just to give you a background about this wonderful gentleman, he's both a cost accountant as well as a chartered accountant. And he has got a very illustrious career, I must say. He started his career with Kirtan and Pandit LLP Chartered Accountants, where he was there for 3 years as, in his articleship. After that, he was assistant vice president at Kandalwala Securities Limited, where he was there as the assistant vice president for almost 11 years and 4 months. It's quite a thing. And good thing that you notice in his career is that very small, depthful career. But most important thing is he has been there, each of these companies for a very long time. This is the first one that he is, Kandalwala Securities. Second one was is the founder and the CEO of Vantage Insurance Brokers and Risk Advisors Private Limited, where he was acting as, he was, the founder and CEO for this company for 13 years and 10 months. Right. Again, it's a very illustrious journey that he had with this company. And then he was the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of JLT Independent between October 2016 and June 2019. That's for 2 years and 9 months. And after that, he became the CEO of the current company, that is Mercer, where he has been the India CEO from July 2019 to till date. I'm sure it's under his company, under his leadership, I would say it's been doing extremely well. Where I think the great thing that he does is apart from his all the financial responsibilities, he also galvanizes human resources, where I think the most important thing is the way he motivates people to embrace the purpose, right? I think that's what it is. It's not that, like people say, you're not going to work for a company or a person, but then you're going to be working for a purpose. I think that's what he does. He has been doing it, and great to have him today for our 25th Leadership Lecture, and a very, very interesting topic called is Changing Trends in Talent, the New Employee Value Proposition. I'm sure even before pandemic, but definitely after pandemic, the kind of lengths that companies and especially HR and L&D heads are going to, ensure that they retain the talent and also to attract new talent, because and very interestingly, in every company nowadays, you'll find two, three varieties of people, which was not the case earlier. There might be a person who is doing his first career. There might be a person who must be doing his second career, and there might be a person who might be pursuing his third career. And it's very difficult. So far, our talent management has never been prepared to manage this kind of talent in this, different career zones, I would say. And that's the kind of thing that he's going to talk to us. And I'm sure, being business leaders yourself, I'm sure you'll be immensely benefited. Over to you, Arvind. Thank you so much for having spared your time for today's lecture.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Nagendra, for that warm introduction and generous acknowledgement of what I have been able to achieve over the course of the last 20 years. I think it has been a fulfilling career across the financial services and now the HR industry. What I hope to do over the next 45-50 minutes is present some thoughts around how we are seeing employee value proposition evolve, and also bring to focus within that space a little bit about the skills and skills agenda for organizations. I'm doing this with the hope that this will make better informed those of you who are people managers, not HR managers, but people managers, leading teams of 2 people to 20 people to 50 people or more, in the hope that you will have an insight into what our research is showing in terms of the relationship between the employer and the employee. And I think managers really represent employer and have the ability to influence the journey of an employee. And I would also like to sort of speak a little bit about skills, because my sense is that one of the reasons you're here this evening and are pursuing other uh, educational programs while you're well into your career is because of your desire to keep yourself relevant and learn new skills. Uh, Please feel free to put in questions in the chat box. I will try to either weave them into the conversation or happy to take them at the end of the short conversation that I hope to have to kick off this session. So um, I'm going to start by playing a small video just to set the context, and then let's take it from there. So I hope you have an enjoyable interaction. I hope you'll look at this as a conversation rather than a lecture, as much as it may have been called like a lecture, right? So yeah, I hope you have a good learning session today. So what you saw in that short video was a glimpse of some of the themes that all of us are really experienced over the last 2-3 years. What I hope to do over the next 25-30 minutes is present to you some of our findings, the background of what we've just experienced. And that is what we call the new humane deal, right? What is the new humane deal? The new humane deal is about changing trends in talent and how organizations have responded by either reviewing or making, and most often making some changes in the employee value proposition that they offer. In why should employees come and work with them, and what should employees seek from their engagement with their employer. Just in terms of perspective, not very long ago in the pre-pandemic world, and while it's felt like a void these 2.5 years, at times it feels like they passed so quickly, at times they feel like they are never getting over. The fact is that in the pre-pandemic world, which was about 2.5-3 years ago, we were already grappling with disruption of some form, the digital disruption. A lot of people were not really familiar with what was happening in the digital society and not comfortable with the digital society, and really only getting acquainted with it. Then we had the pandemic, where digital, social, and health disruptions occurred. And while we are still finding our way through the pandemic, and maybe calling it the post-pandemic world is not most appropriate, we've had a few more aspects thrown in, including the great, either you call it resignation or reassessment epidemic. I like to call it the great reassessment rather than the great resignation. So what has really happened over the last 4 years is we've gone through a whole lot of disruption. And I would say that the pandemic has been a defining moment in resetting how employees and employers evaluate their relationship, and how employees evaluate their career and life journeys. And over the course of the last couple of years, or I would say more like 18 months, employers have gone from first stabilizing the ship in the immediate wake of the pandemic to now trying to define what their employee value proposition and engagement will be. So employers are trying to respond to the new employee engagement, and how they act now will have a lasting impact on employee behavior, whether it's in engagement, whether it's in productivity, or whether it's just in the commitment that employees have towards their employer organizations. I already alluded to this, which is, and most of you are aware, the challenges in finding the right talent, right? While this survey itself may have been a little dated in the late 2021, things haven't really improved. In fact, I would say that they've only accelerated. And those of you who follow attrition data for large IT services companies, because that's where they publish the data most, would have seen that this number is only increasing. So it's in this background that we at Mercer conducted a survey. That survey covered 9,300 C-suite executives around the world. This box here talks of what they were expecting in terms of growth. It also covered 13 industries and 16 geographies. And one of those geographies is India, and a lot of the industries that we are mentioning are about India. So while a lot of the learnings are global, there is an India spec, and then I'll come to you, share with you a little bit more specifics about India in due course of the conversation. 81% of C-suite executives said the business agenda and people agenda are more intertwined. Our people make a large difference to our business. This is more than it has ever been. And this for the first time that CEOs are really having to devote so much time to the people agenda, because they realize that their people agenda will have a meaningful difference on their business agenda. 41% of CEOs said that there's a fundamental shift in what the business requires, both in terms of reset of work, that is how is work done, reset of workforce, that is how do I plan my workforce strategies, and workplace, that is what is my workplace, right? We also spoke to through this survey about 1,800 senior HR professionals, CHROs, senior vice presidents, and other HR professionals. And they said 91% of them strategize more with executives on human capital risk, something that I already alluded to, and 96% intend to make design changes to the HR function. That is, they intend to change how they interact with employees because they think the time is now. We also spoke to about 8,000 employees, right? A mix of people who work remote, hybrid, or on-site, a mix of the various generations of employees. 78% of them felt that the company empowers them more than it did earlier. And of course, we know that through the pandemic, the only way organizations have sustained, or the ones that have done best, are the ones that have actually let employees make bigger decisions than they ever did, just because we are in a dispersed environment. Having said that, 81% of them also feel the risk of burnout. This is up from 63% at the peak of the pandemic. So we are seeing employees feel more engaged. We are seeing C-suite talking of talent more than ever. We are seeing HR looking at reorienting their function. And yet we are also seeing that employees are feeling a sense of burnout. What this has meant is businesses are reinventing in response to the pandemic. They are more flexible. They are looking at more sustainable work models. And they are reinventing business practices. Because the reality of today is that the workplace is no longer a physical address. It is like we are today in a diffused work environment and yet connected. It's also needed to have sustainable work models. Work models that came at the peak of the pandemic were responding to a crisis. But we are now really in an uncertain geopolitical, economic, health situation, and the uncertainties of the world are going to continue to somehow remain elevated as compared to where they were, let's say, 2 decades ago. So sustainable work models, and then their business practices. How do I respond to all of this? What we are seeing also is that executives are concerned about remote working, but employees think differently. 75% of CXOs believe that this is causing an apprenticeship culture, not an employer long-term relationship culture. They feel that the ability to build interpersonal relationships is compromised, and they are not sure if organizations can build meaningful culture in a remote environment. But employees don't see it like that. 74% of the employees believe that they'll be more successful in a remote hybrid work environment, that they're able to collaborate even though they are remote, right? And or in a hybrid, and 40% feel connected. So just to sort of double click on this is the fact that HR therefore is the key mediator between the organization and the employee, and are expected to bridge the gap. What has worked well so far is the flexible collaborative environment and training, the investment in technology, and the fact that organizations have in fact created a safe environment to share concerns. Just moving on in terms of the relationship between employer and employee. What we are finding is that employees don't want to work for someone, but they want to work with someone. Right? There's revolution in how we work and how we partner. 6 in 10 employees will join an organization only if they're allowed hybrid. Executives realize that they need to now build partnerships rather than an employee-employer contract. And executives say that gig workforce will be a part of their strategic workforce planning going forward. A few more thoughts. What were employees seeking from their employers? Were they seeking trust? Were they seeking transparency? Or were they seeking equity? Equity not just in terms of gender, of course that is critical. Equity not just in terms of workforce and the multiple generations, but now equity has multiple other lenses. How are you equitable to people who are remote? How are you equitable to people who are in office? How are you providing the same opportunities to people across the workforce, across geographies, across businesses, across functions? And as you would expect, employees expect all of the above. And organizations that have been able to offer this have what we call the thriving workforce. Workforce that is 2x more likely to say that they are in control of their career, even though they are remote, that they feel organizations are fair and equitable, and that they have a say in the future of work. We have also seen a shift in the employer-employee relationship from a loyalty contract to an engagement contract to a thrive contract, and what we now call the lifestyle contract. So what are the key pillars of each of these contracts? The loyalty contract is the traditional contract that most of us haven't lived with. When employers felt that if they offered pay, benefits, and security, job security, employees will remain, workers were seen as assets to be retained, and pay and benefits were for time and output. More recently, I would say about a decade ago, it moved from employees are assets, yes, but they have to be optimized, and rewards were going beyond just rewards to say achievement, camaraderie, meaning in the work. Pre-pandemic, we believed we were in what we would call the thrive contract, which has employers accepting that we can't treat an employee only as an asset at work, but we have to have an appreciation of the whole person. Because employees started looking for equity, purpose, and impact, the desire to make a difference in their organization. Employers were looking at more human-led but tech-enabled. So technology had started to replace, and then an effort to create healthy experiences in engagement. We believe that the pandemic has caused a reset, and employees are now looking for opportunities where they are looking for choice. They want to choose the type of contracts they have. They want to feel a sense of connection, and they are not looking at just impact but contribution. Right? A human-centered partnership built, and the reward strategy has to be one which is flexible and employability in exchange for continued relevance. And that is about skills, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward. So what we've seen is the evolution of the relationship between being a transactional relationship to be a life experience relationship. A little bit more around what makes a difference. Top reasons employees stay in organizations, of course, job security continues to remain top. It is primary. Of course, fair pay and responsible rewards remain. But if I go to the bottom right, employees are saying they are ready to forego pay rise for full flexible work or complex work schedules and ability to work from anywhere. So this is what employers are listening from their employees. In the context of employees seeking meaningful life experiences, it also brings us to the question around offering caring employment, right? Looking at employees as a whole, which means mental and physical and financial well-being. And this really is about data points on how caring employers or employers being caring is now more important than ever, and how data can help employers create that caring environment, right? We are seeing them expected to manage or help the employees manage family responsibilities, habits, and life goals. We are looking at a caring culture having meaningful flexibility, supportive leadership, thoughtful communication, and affordable healthcare. And this bar here, or this chart here, is about how employers are reflecting care, how they are creating varied and valuable benefits that resonate with employees, and a caring future. I'm just going to talk of a couple of other themes before I dive into skills. While we spoke of workforce strategic workforce planning, while we spoke of resilience and the need for organizations to be far more adaptable, what we are also discovering is that employees as well as employers realize the need for a good reskilling agenda. But while 91% of employees in our survey said that they recently tried to learn a new skill, 98% out of those 1800 HR leaders said that they feel that there are significant skill gaps in their organization. The good thing is, and so while the concern is that employees think they're learning new skills, employers think that there are skill gaps. So that's clearly a concern. The good news is that reskilling is an initiative that C-suite and executive leadership of organizations feel should be the number one initiative that they will invest in, or the number one initiative that will give them the best return on investment. HR priorities around talent reskilling is also very high. Just a little bit more around talent and reskilling. What we are finding is that there has been a 5-fold increase in employer provisioning and online learning, and organizations are trying to ensure that they are prepared better for the future. There is a greater degree of alignment between C-suite executives and HR in the context of upskilling and reskilling, and that's very heartening to know, Because oftentimes in the past, there has not been as much of a confluence between what business leaders thought their organization needed and HR folks thought their organizations needed. So investing in workforce upskilling, reskilling, designing talent processes around skills, and improving workforce planning. And I'm just going to pause and take a couple of examples here. Unilever, in its desire to ensure that they are a caring employer, an employer that is able to retain talent, and an employer that is using current as well as retired workforce well, has created a program that they call FlexU. FlexU allows present and past employees to register on their portal, announce their skills, and from time to time, Unilever puts projects on FlexU that employees, present or past, can offer to work for. So this is an example of where employers are trying to harness current as well as past talent. Right? Increasing number of Indian IT services companies are also incentivizing employees on their workforce strategy. And I will come to that and give a couple of examples in that space as we move forward. What do HR leaders, despite all of this, see as the barriers? Right? The largest barrier that HR sees is the concern that I will skill and invest in my talent and they will leave the firm. But really the question is, do you want to have talent that is well equipped to manage the business, which means you have to invest in talent, reskill and upskill them. Or if you don't do that, then they are not equipped to meet your business needs. So as much as it's a concern, really organizations don't have a choice. They also have this concern of the fact that the pace of change is so high that how do we ensure that we have the best workforce in terms of skills? And I'm going to take an example of a global insurance company. And mind you, insurers are not typically very innovative, or we don't see them as innovative. What this organization has done is taken a lot of their digital and new age skill workforce out of their technology team and created a horizontal or a pool of talent and a COE that allows for all functions to put up their hand to saying what are the skills they require. So now you have a pool of workforce that is talented, has the best digital talents. And because today technology and digital skills are not in any one function, but across the organization, various departments putting their requirements. And this COE then publishes the projects and the skills required. And this talent pool can then offer time. And then, of course, there is a mechanism where talent pool and projects are matched. What is it helping employees to realize? It's helping employees to therefore realize which skills are the most in demand and which skills are not as much in demand. Because now you have a repository of projects that calls out the talents you need and the talent library. So that is allowing employees to learn the new skills that are evolving and giving them the knowledge and the power, right? So that is one way that employers are keeping pace of change and emerging skill needs. Of course, there's challenge around actual skills gaps, not knowing who has the most potential to leverage new skills, and not enough staff, right? What employees want is more time, more resources, and also feel that when they pick up new talent or new skills, they will be duly rewarded. A couple of more slides, and then I'm going to pause to sort of take questions. What we are seeing in the skills framework and what's happening in a world that is about skills is we are moving from jobs to skills clusters. For those of you who have interest in this subject should pick up a book called Work Without Jobs by one of Mercer's senior professionals in the transformation side called Arvind Laddha. What Ravin says or is seeing is organizations are no longer looking at jobs, but looking at skills. So you break down the job into various skills, and then some skills you automate, and the remaining you reframe the job. So you're moving from jobs to skills clusters, and you're moving from paying for roles to paying for skills. Right? So that's really the background. And just on this one, and I alluded to an example of a large Indian IT services company, where what the organization is doing today is created skills pathways. If you are in the initial level of the workforce and you learn new skills, the organization is rewarding people for acquiring those skills, irrespective of whether those skills have been deployed into the workforce or into projects. They are letting employees choose, and they are informing their decisions through data. What they are also doing for more experienced employees is prescribing or recommending a little more nudge. And the minute the employee acquires that skill, is assessed for that skill, the employee then starts getting rewarded at 50% of the skills premium. So for the first layer, 100% of the skills premium gets paid on acquisition and assessment. Second layer, 50% of skills premium gets paid on acquisition of that skill, and 50% when they're deployed. And for employees who are even more tenured, they are actually prescribing what skills they should acquire, and then how will they deploy those skills. So you have increasing number of organizations that are rewarding talent for skills acquisition. From 2020 to now, what we are seeing is, while organizations are earlier looking at buying skills, they are now heavily focused on creating learning cultures. So they are looking less at gig as compared to earlier. They are looking less at external learning, but creating learning platforms and rewarding employees. This was about skills, and I'm going to sort of quickly move on to what does this whole employee value proposition look like, right? Where employees are looking at being energized, where they are looking at bringing their authentic self to work, where they're looking at equity and fairness, where they're looking at higher representation for women and other minority groups. All of this in the context of India, and we really picked up 3 themes, which is build resilience by leading with values, create equitable organizations, well-being, employability, and harness collective energy. 99% of employees expect their employers to pursue a sustainability agenda, which is ESG, make a difference to community, higher purpose. 1 in 2 HR folks prioritize sustainability. So they're really looking for adapting for relevance. 74% of employees will join a company, as I mentioned earlier, only if they allowed hybrid, but HR folks and executives are concerned about how to engage with them. Well-being remains important, but skills and employability is also increasingly relevant. And then how to bring all of this together to harness the collective energy and unlock potential in a human-centered work environment. For those of you who are interested in learning a little bit more and understanding this subject, because I've tried to crunch a lot in the last 25-30 minutes, this is all available in the Global Talent Trend study of Mercer. If you go to mercer.com and type Global Talent Trends, I think you'll find a lot of rich data. Just 3 things before I close. 3 steps to create a strong employee value proposition. And you as managers don't have to wait for the organization to do it. You can start doing it yourself. Know your people. That is listening better, right? Is the first step in terms of an employee value proposition that's meaningful. Deliver on health and well-being. And health and well-being is not just about physical health, but it's also about understanding your people better, which is mental health, connecting with them so that they feel that they can achieve their career goals, design better employee experiences that drive impact. And the last one is to enable them, right? Not just through digital, and of course, digital is important, but essentially offer more meaningful career journeys. So I'm going to stop sharing now and happy to take some questions. I do hope you found these initial thoughts useful. Dr.
Thank
Nagendra.
you so much, Arvind. Amazing. I think it's a very big canvas. I think loaded with a lot of data points. I think it's taking time to consume for all the learners. But I think, and I'm sure, I think this kind of study, which is conducted all over the world, right, with some of the finalists. I mean, almost about 7, and that numbers that you talked about is quite depthful. I think we already have a few questions, and with your permission, I want to read out one by one. And before we do that, I just have, I think, one of the comments that has come in from one of the colleagues is that, I think right now people talk about Industry Revolution 4.0, Arvind, right? And what people say is that while Industry Revolution 1 has created what is say blue collar workers, Industry Revolution 2 and 3 has created what is called as a white collar workers in one sense. Now, Industrial Revolution, Industry 4.0 or Industrial Revolution 4.0 is actually creating what is they call as a green employees.
Yes.
Which actually fits into what you said in one of your slides, saying that every employee is wanting to work with a company which is, I would say, environmental friendly or sustainability, friendly kind of thing. So, how does it translate into companies when they start recruiting employees? Because this generation, maybe while the companies are not. I think overnight get geared up, but then they expect from the new recruits to do that. But then there is definitely seem to be some sort of alignment, I would say misalignment from the point of expectations. What the new generation, or like you rightly said, is Zers, and what the the companies are already having in place. So how do you see that the kind of recruitment, because talent management also is about recruitment, one and two.
Absolutely.
Right. So how do you think the companies can go about doing that? I would say gap kind of thing. They bridge the gap.
If I understood correctly, what the participant is talking of in terms of green employees is employees that are looking for organizations that are indexed in the ESG framework, organizations whose purpose. And I would just say a couple of things. In the past, employers thought that they would attract and retain employees through compensation and through rewarding careers, which is, I will pay you well and I'll give you an ability to grow your career here. Increasingly, employees are also asking employers of their larger purpose. So employees, and I think I made a reference to that when we spoke of the way we've moved from loyalty contract to life experience contract, is employees are looking at contribution. And organizations realize that. One data point that I did not put up there is the reputation of the employer is becoming a very important matrix in employees deciding whether they want to work with these employees, and whether in employees deciding whether they want to work with their employer. So organizations have, Dr. Nagendra, increasingly started to become more vocal. I don't want to walk into a minefield of geopolitics, but we see some Western employers have responded to the geopolitical crisis that we are seeing. Not all of them are doing it for business reasons. A lot of them are doing it because their employees feel that they want to work with employers that represent a certain context. Those contexts could be different in different geographies. I'm not saying it's a one paint color that will brush across, but it's a response to what they are seeing in their own communities. This is increasingly common also in the CSR activities. We haven't seen organizations making such meaningful contributions. So yes, employees are asking employers what they're doing for the community and their purpose.
So this is the first question from Ms. Nikunj and Goenka, and he has got two questions, Arvind. First question is, Starting with a very interesting comment, very well articulated and hybrid working culture. How can the employer or an organization give this kind of opportunity to field-related employees, sales and marketing? That's one. And the second question is, you have highlighted the need for reskilling or upskilling. Can you suggest a few courses or websites for marketing, please? Thank you, Nikunj.
Yeah. It is a challenge, right? How do you offer this to employees that we think need to be available at all points of time? And I think we must accept two realities. One is that there is limitations, right, based on the nature of a role, and their organizations have to index on communication. Why are they forced to have differential engagements, differential workplace definitions for different types of employees? And I think employees realize. So communication is important, because equitable does not mean same for everyone. Equitable means fair to everyone, right, in the context of what they're doing. I think the second thing is to realize and not to get caught into believing that this is the only way it can happen and there is no opportunity to even strip anything out. I would suggest that for almost every role, and I'm not saying for every role, for almost every role, there may be components of the role that can be moved into hybrid. Do field workforce need to come to office to report, or can you offer them digital tools? Do they need to come to office for training, or do you offer them digital tools for training? Do they need to come to office for reviews, or do they do it on Zoom, right? But of course, if they have to connect to customers, how can they connect to customers digitally as well as otherwise? So there is a need for organizations to realize that there might be opportunity in places where we don't think opportunities exist, and actually reassess every role. As far as reskilling is concerned, actually, and places where you can get that, field has seen an explosion, right? Whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Udemy, whether it is Coursera, in fact, even Harvard Business School and other large schools, right? So I would say you're spoiled for choice. My suggestion is you have to have clarity about what you want in your career and therefore next in your career, and what skills do you need, and then look for courses, but you're spoiled for choice. You can go to Premier Institute virtually today, right? So there is abundance of choice.
Thank you, Arvind. This is the question from Mr. Sriharsha Tadankar. And his question is it possible for a hybrid of work from home in office is a long-term solution, trusting that employees will deliver no matter what they choose, that is work from home or office. Also, they will be rated equally in appraisals. Thank you, Sriharsha.
I think two very important questions, right? And two really questions that all organizations are grappling with. How can organizations be sure that employees will deliver from home? We have to remove the subjectivity out of KPIs as much as we can, and hold employees accountable for smaller, more sharply focused, objective KPIs, right? So start managing through results. Traditionally, managers have been, there has been a bias of looking at activity rather than results, or a mix of two, right? Now you don't have the opportunity to look for activity. So organizations are being forced to review KPIs and define what's expected from employees and measure it transparently. And that's the only way you'll know whether your employees are delivering in a remote environment. The second one requires a lot of people manager training to ensure managers are equipped to be able to connect with both remote as well as in-office workforce. So I think the journey on both of these has only just begun, and it will evolve, but these are important questions.
This is a question from Mr. Susil Parida, and his question is, as the team is remotely distributed in different cities, there is no meaning of work from office on this situation. How can a manager motivate the team to come to office? Thank you, Susil.
Employees are willing actually to come to office. It's not that employees are not willing to come to office. The question is, what will I achieve in office that I cannot achieve from home? If we are able to solve for that, if we are able to respond to that question meaningfully, employees will come to office. But if we are going to ask employees to come to office and do Zoom meetings and all of that, why will they come? Because this is what they have done successfully for 2.5 years. So I think our focus has to be not on getting employees to office, but on what can we offer them in exchange for them coming to office, right? So I think that's the question to answer. Employees will come if we are able to offer them a meaningful difference.
And this is the question from Mr. Sham Babu Shah, and his question is: instead of reskilling existing employees, companies want to hire people from outside. They don't want to provide opportunity for existing employees. What's the reason behind this? Thank you, Sham.
Sham, I would say this is changing a little, and especially it's changing in the last 1 year, because employees and employers have suddenly figured that not enough talent is available, right? So earlier, and one of the slides I alluded to it, in 2020, employers thought that they could go and hire people for whatever skills they needed. Today, they realize that's not possible. My suggestion to employees who think they don't have the opportunity is to be vocal about the fact that they want opportunities. In organizations where employees have been vocal, the opportunities have come. Of course, not all organizations are equitable. HR is struggling with that, but my suggestion is if you feel that you're not getting the opportunity, be sure to make yourself heard, and then there's a better chance.
This is a question from Mr. Yogesh Kumar Arvind, and his question is: recently, due to great resignation, we could see salary hike, upskill, cross-skill, hybrid work environment incentives, etc. What do you think are these incentives good for sustainable growth, or do you still believe we should do more? Yeah, and if yes, what should be most priority things to focus on the retailing talent? Thank you, Yogesh. Loaded question.
Yeah. I think what we've seen in the last 12 to 18 months in terms of compensation hikes, they were knee-jerk reactions to an circumstance that we didn't expect we will face in late 2020 or even early 21. But it's not sustainable. And what organizations need to do to retain talent is, I would say, three things. One is be more vocal about purpose, right? And the contribution employees are making. Second, offer them opportunities to learn new skills. And third, offer them diverse experiences. The key reason employees are leaving organizations is they want diversity of experience. Organizations need to consider how to offer that diversity of experiences within the same organization. I think organizations that have been able to do that are being able to retain higher level of talent. So purpose, skilling, and diversity of experience.
Thank you, Arvind. This is the question from Ms. Malati Amin, and her question is: excellent session, sir. Organizations are spending in reskilling their employees. At the same time, organizations skeptical about the employees serving them once they are upskilled. Hence, most of the organizations look at hiring from outside instead of reskilling their employees. What is your view on that? Very interesting, Malati. Suspicious.
No, I think organizations don't have a choice. They will actually continue to invest. They have to over-index how much they are investing in reskilling employees. If you talent is not available, right? It's not available in key areas, and skilling existing employees is the only choice. So I think we are seeing change that will accelerate. And if they don't reskill their employees, existing employees, and are not able to attract talent, then they'll find themselves in a business that does not resonate with customers. So as much as there may be apprehension in investing in reskilling, there is no choice.
And this is a question from very simple and very interesting question from Kaushik Vora. And his question is: can you define what is the right solution, right sustainable solution today for employees and organizations?
I'm not 100% sure what you mean by sustainable solution, but I'm assuming that one of the things you're talking of is maybe sustainable in the context of careers, right? We must accept that learning is a continuous journey. People who joined before our generation, and a lot of you are much younger than Dr. Nagendra and me, so people who joined before our generation or even in our generation could get into one organization in one type of a role. So I could, let's say, get into finance and grow within finance to become the CFO of the organization or any other organization. That's not likely to happen now. I didn't have to, if you became a chartered accountant, you didn't have to learn anything new for the rest of your career. That's going to change today. So I think you must realize that for a sustainable career, every 5 years, maybe more often, you will be expected to learn new skills, and gaining new skills is the only way to build sustainable careers. Be vocal about what you want from your employer. Employers are willing to listen, and be thoughtful about how you build your career journey, about the choices you make. It's tempting to jump to the next sort of job where compensation might be higher, looks attractive, but be thoughtful about the choices you make.
Thank you. This is the question from Mr. Anindya Banerjee, and his question is: what about KRAs, key responsible areas based assessment system? Should it be encouraging method anymore to evaluate a person per se, while depends on quote unquote organizational specific goal settings only, while potential of an employee doesn't necessarily depend on any organization policy or goal? Are we really creating an ecosystem for real growth of an employee or an organization? Thank you, Anindya.
And I think, again, a very relevant question in terms of how assessments were looked at earlier. What we are experiencing today is the knowledge of the humane aspect is being built into assessments. So organizations are looking at how do I assess employees for performance on objective KRAs, on financial metrics, but also for potential. And increasingly, and there are tools that employers are using, forward-looking employers are using to assess talent for their potential and not just for their performance. But very important, and I think good question to sort of raise.
And this is the one I think that you've already addressed, but I think maybe you have a different perspective, Arvind. This question is from Padmaja. And our question is, employees tend to leave the organization after getting reskilled or upskilled. What would you suggest to minimize these cases? Thank you, Padmaja.
So Padmaja, the organizations don't have a choice. They have to reskill their employees. But then having reskilled them, they have to start thinking of how can my employee use this skill in a role. And sometimes you have to be willing to reskill them and deploy them in a new role. And I think it goes back to the point I made. Reskill and give them different types of employee experiences or career journeys within the same organization. That's the only way you're going to be able to retain talent.
And this is the question from Mr. Jeevan Chandra Tiwari, and his questions: we are in auto sector where face-to-face interaction is a must to make a quick decision making. However, employees feel hybrid work culture is still good where everything is open. What change do you think we can bring in our workplaces? Thank you, Jeevan.
Jeevan, my suggestion is that organizations need to understand why employees think that they can work successfully in hybrid. The reality of the fact is that managers and leaders don't know as much as they think they know, right? We don't know the context in which employees are delivering work because employees are not in front of us, right? So my suggestion is that organizations should actually try to understand why employees think they can deliver, be ready to reorient their deep-rooted understanding of how work happens, and we will find a golden mean between.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a question from Divya Rajan Arvind, and her question is: hi, thank you for the wonderful session. Employees have a regular connect with project leads and managers, yet interaction with HR is very minimal, only interactive during onboarding and exiting the company. Also, during high interaction is with project managers. HR is mostly involved in extreme situations. In my career, only one HR had regular interaction to check with employees' well-being under her. Why HR team is moving away from employees under them? Thank you, Divya. Very interesting one.
Yeah. Divya, I think in a remote world, the pressure on people managers to act as ambassadors of the organization has just increased. So I completely feel for what you're saying, but HR has a role to play. And I would say that people managers probably need to ask HR to engage with employees. My suggestion is you need to go to HR and say, these are the 3 things I want you to engage with my team about, right? I'm doing this and this is what I see as your role. Make that ask, and I think you will find that HR is willing in most cases.
And with your permission, we already hit 7 p.m. Arvind. Maybe with the permission, if I can take 2-3 questions, if that's okay with you.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
thank you.
happy to do
Sure. I think we'll take maybe three more questions with your permission, right? This is a question from Mr. Pranjal Gupta, and his question is, thanks for giving the insights in a new humane trend. MOOCs are providing opportunity to reskill and upskill employees. However, are these skills in line with organizations or employees' requirement? I recall it is mentioned that employees are still concerned that skill gaps are still, they're existing. What can be done to align the two? That is, employee upskilling themselves, but not meeting employers' skill requirements.
I would suspect that the answer lies in data. We will have to put in a lot more effort to look at data to understand which are the most relevant skills. And we will have to live with the reality that given how fast technology is changing and skills required are changing, and technology is not the only skill, there are other skills required are changing, there will remain a skills gap, right? But look for data and let that drive your decision in terms of skills.
And this is the last but one question for today evening, Arvind. And this is a question from Mr. Manish Chaudhary. And his question is, Sir, hello, sir. One question I have around the slide where you showed that employees are finding it challenging to build a relationship with employees in the work from home environment these days. The work from home has certainly broken the limitation to recruit local talent and can be recruited countrywide. Would like to know your views on how to find the balance between on-site and hybrid working. Thank you, Manish.
Manish, the this answer, in my opinion, will be, or this question, in my opinion, will be answered only over the next many months as this experimentation continues. But I would go back to saying organizations have to be more specific about what they're expecting out of various roles, various teams, and how it all adds up. Have to break down roles to see what in every role can be in office and in hybrid. And a lot more effort needs to go in trying to understand that, and then we will find the new balance. Those are two data points that I would have: clarity on what's expected out of roles and how roles can become hybrid. That will define the mix.
And this is the last question for today evening, Arvind. And this is an interesting question from Mr. Sivaram Nayak. And his question is, it has been observed that when organization is not meeting their desired goals, immediately they are targeting the sales function. At the same time, senior employees are started, leaving the organization, and the organization goes in deep trouble. So, what should be the right decision for employees and employers?
Of course, an organization that's not equitable is likely to be in trouble. So, in organizations where sales workforce find that they are being penalized for results without any acknowledgement of effort, and where they are doing their best but leadership is not being in, I think those organizations have an existential challenge, right? So, if you know of organizations like that, if you're associated with organizations like that, speaking up is the only choice. And if they don't respond, then gain new skills and look for employers that are more equitable.
Thank you so much, Arvind. And we are sorry if you have overshot the time. We're almost about 5 minutes. But I think it's absolutely very invigorating discussion. I think the kind of points that you brought, of course, with the help of those wonderful research and data points. I think it's very, very thought provoking for sure. And like you rightly said, for everybody who's is a people manager in one sense, although we may not be able to find, like you rightly said, for most of the responses that immediate answers to all of them. I think now I think what we get to see from the companies is definitely some sort of buy-in into that new, I think the culture, or what do we call it, the humane factor, I would say. And thank you so much for your time, especially on a Sunday evening. I know how busy you have been, and being the CEO of a company like Mercer, but absolutely appreciate your time and also the kind of insights that you shared with all of us.
Dr. Nagendra, I'm glad to be here. I would just sort of close by saying that a lot of the answers are yet to be found. Organizations and managers just need to be open to listening better and open to realizing that what they thought was sacrosanct and can't happen can actually happen in this new humane deal.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Arvind. Absolutely appreciate your time. Look forward to having you once again, hosting you once again very soon. Maybe for our Diamond Jubilees kind of thing, now that we have inaugurated for the Silver Jubilee.
Thank you. Have a good evening, and I hope you found it useful.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks.